Good morning, everyone. I'm Rhonda Pringle, Market President and Publisher of the Baltimore Business Journal. Welcome to the biannual Baltimore Business Journal's Best in Finance CFO Awards. Today, we gather to honor the top finance professionals in the Greater Baltimore region for their ongoing efforts and contributions to their organizations and the business community. We recognize 10 individuals for their outstanding performance as corporate financial leaders in this ever-changing economic climate. We'd like to thank our sponsors for their support of today's event. Association sponsor FEI, celebration sponsors Calvert Hall, Helping Up Mission, St. John's Properties, and Morgan State University, and awards partner Allegram. A quick overview on today's program. We do not have direct chat, but please feel free to share your congratulations via our questions panel, and our event staff will share your post. In the handout section of the control panel, be sure to download our event program, which contains more information on this year's 2021 honorees and sponsors. Though we are virtual today, we are grateful that we have this platform to celebrate our 2021 Best in Finance CFO honorees with you. Before we celebrate this year's group of well-deserving financial strategists, I would like to welcome reporter Holden Wilen, who will moderate today's fireside chat. Welcome, Holden.
Thank you, Rhonda. Over the last year and a half, businesses have faced unprecedented challenges brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic. The role of the CFO has evolved over the years, but the pandemic has made it clearer than ever why it is so important to have a top-notch financial professional at the top. Undoubtedly, Mike Smith fits the bill at McCormick Company, Inc., where he has helped the 132-year-old spice maker return to the Fortune 500 for the first time since 1994. I was honored to talk with Mike about his role and how he has helped one of Maryland's iconic companies thrive during one of the most challenging periods in history. Here's our conversation. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Mike. It's great to catch up with you. Really just wanted to start off by asking how you got your career started and why you got into finance.
Thanks for having me, Holden. I really appreciate it. Gosh, this is such a long time ago. I will say my dad was a cost accountant at a catalog company up in Hanover, Pennsylvania. So I think he gave me a little bit of insight into what the accounting world was. I was really good at math in high school also. And, I was also, grew up in a small town in PA, and I was the first of 4 children and the first one to go to college. So when I was able to get into Notre Dame, but I think the thing is I was paying for a good chunk of that. So I had to make sure I could get a job coming out of college. And accounting, as it is today, is a great profession, a lot of job opportunities. So I think I've made a good choice.
Yeah. When you began your career, I believe you started in public accounting. So maybe talk a little bit about that and then sort of how you eventually made your way over to McCormick. And I would love to hear about why you made the switch from public accounting to working for a public company.
No, thanks. I worked for Coopers & Lybrand for about 5 years after I graduated college. And I would still say today that public accounting, I think, is a great profession. I had a really fun 5 years there, learned a heck of a lot. At a young age, dealing with senior executives of companies, I think was great experience, even if you can only spend 2 or 3 years in public accounting. However, I got to a point where when you're there for about 4 or 5 years, you need to kind of transition from I was in the audit side or assurance side, they call it now, into selling services, and really kind of that was the product you're selling. And I found that after 4 or 5 years of doing that and auditing companies like Baltimore Gas and Electric Company or other companies, I found that I wanted to be on the industry side that were making products. And I was blessed that someone had left Coopers & Lybrand and got into McCormick and got my resume into a job for a plant controller, which was a job on the manufacturing floor of our largest plant in the world up here in Hunt Valley. And boy, talk about a change from going from theoretical audit to working with people on the plant floor with yield losses and things like that. It was really, really a neat experience.
Was it challenging at all? And if so, I guess what was the biggest challenge in making that transition?
I think it was as much a perception thing as anything, because I think in a company like McCormick, where people come and work for a long time, where brothers and mothers and fathers. Here I was coming in from the outside, worked at a public accounting firm, and I think there was this thought that, well, could Mike fit in? Could Mike make change? Could Mike work with the plant manufacturing floor people to help drive savings and make improvements? And I think, having a good grounding and growing up in a small town, like I said before, playing baseball with people like that growing up, who I really enjoyed working with, they accepted me as one of their own very quickly. I think McCormick is a culture that, back then I had 9 separate interviews to get this job. And we have a very, very special culture. And I think we take a lot of serious time to make sure it's gonna work for both parties. And I think that was my biggest fear coming in, but it's worked out pretty well.
Were you always in? I'm sure McCormick has been an iconic brand. Was, of course, at the time. Were you always much of a foodie or anything like that?
No, not at all. I would say growing up, cinnamon, pepper, and very, very narrow food ban growing up for whatever reason. But I quickly found that I had to change my repertoire. And today, you can see the Cholula behind me. I'm a foodie, full stop right now.
Yeah,
you have to be. I did. The Old Bay. I will say, Old Bay was a staple, obviously, growing up.
And I'm sure you put it on everything now too.
Yes, that is true.
So obviously you've enjoyed now. You mentioned sort of some of the questions when you were starting at McCormick, but you've obviously enjoyed now a long career that saw you become the CFO in 2016. I guess maybe start off with just why have you been able, why have you found it so successful at McCormick, and why have you stayed at the company all these times? Because I'm sure you've probably had other opportunities come your way.
Yeah, I mean, McCormick's culture it's a very collaborative culture. As I said, it's based on the power of people. It's something that C.P. McCormick, who was not the original founder, but he was running the company as a young person back in the 30s and 40s, came up with this idea that, as opposed to ideas coming from the top down, you used to have a board of directors with one person making a lot of the decisions. He wanted ideas coming up from the plant floor. And actually, he was a collaborator also with Mr. Price from T. Rowe Price. They had very similar management philosophies. And this collaborative culture and team environment was really ahead of its time back then. I think a lot of companies have adopted it over time, but I think it's really so core to our culture here. I've always felt, in whatever role I was in, being part of that team was really special here. And finance, some companies, and I saw this on the audit side, sometimes finance is seen as the bean counters. They're just the number people. McCormick, I've always felt, whether I was the plant controller or the CFO in Europe, or doing corporate M&A deals, I always felt like I was a full business partner with the commercial teams, with supply chain finance, all of my 30 years.
Yeah. So obviously you became the CFO in 2016. And in that time, obviously McCormick recently joined the Fortune 500. You guys have experienced incredible growth even before the pandemic. You guys were doing really good, but obviously you've had a big surge during the pandemic. When I was looking at the numbers, you guys have grown sales 30% since you became CFO, and net income has increased almost 60%. What would you say have been the keys to driving that growth?
Yeah, I mean, it's a team effort. I can tell you, the market is so competitive for all sales and all profits now. But I think Lawrence Kurzius, who's our CEO, who joined us from an acquisition when we bought Zatarain's back in the early 2000s, he became CEO in the early 2016 timeframe, and I became CFO right after that. And we have a really good partnership. And I look at it too. We really had a great CFO and CEO before that, and both Alan Wilson and Gordon Stetz, and even before them with Bob Lawless and Frank Cantino. So we're blessed by standing on the shoulders of giants, as I say. I think in the last 5 years, we took a look back when we came into our roles, and while we were able to hit the sales side of things generally, our long-term sales growth algorithm and guidance is about 4 to 6%. And we look to get about a third of that from base business expansion, a third from new products, and a third from M&A. And we found that we did a pretty good job of that. Where we were lacking a little bit was on the profit realization side of things. Part of that was due to there was large inflation during some of those periods too. but really, I think upped our focus on cash and cost management. So those sales, we had still good sales trends, and including some of the M&A transactions you alluded to, but also strong cost management. And we have a program which actually started under when Gordon was the CFO called CCI, Comprehensive Continuous Improvement. So we've ramped that up over the last 5 or 6 years, and it's teams of people across the business that report up into finance, but there could be supply chain experts or marketing experts that are really working across the regions and the functions to really drive cost savings that really then you can reinvest back in A&P programs to support the brands and drive sales. So it's a nice virtuous circle as we talk about it.
You were kind of just touching on this a little bit, but we've seen cases where companies sort of chase sales, and so they're growing those sales, but they're not seeing the same thing on the bottom line. But you guys have been growing both at the top line and bottom line. How have you been able to grow profit?
I think that's the discipline of CCI, and we really were rigorous about the tracking of it. It's funny, we get into a lot of debate sometimes. It only counts as CCI if it decreases cost, and there is a lot of theoretical debate about cost avoidance and other things. But we always say it has to go on the gross margin bridge or the SG&A bridge to count as CCI savings, because when we talk about it to investors, you hear a lot of companies will talk about efficiencies, but then they look at their margins and what happened to where'd it go? It got eaten up by something else. But we really try to retain a very rigorous methodology so we can have credibility with investors.
What are some of the main drivers of CCI within your CCI program?
No, I mean, the traditional path is where most companies are going is supply chain cost or procurement cost. So as you're trying to get better purchase prices, there's negotiation there, obviously, efficiencies in the plants. What we found about 4 or 5 years ago, we expanded it to all lines of the P&L. So SG&A, efficiencies and administration cost, standardization of professional services. You might have a lot of different, trying to get synergies there. Advertising and promotion. This is an area where we've been really successful in bringing together our marketing teams globally and getting synergies by going to one agency, for example, or bringing things in-house. Actually, the next time you come out to 241 Schilling out here, we have a studio where we shoot a lot of our own social media content that happens. Not only is it more efficient from a cost perspective, but in today's world where things are hitting the internet or all the different social platforms right away, they can respond very quickly. Versus in the old world where you'd send a brief to an agency in New York and they'd respond back and you go back and forth. This can happen very instantaneously, as you know.
So during your time as CFO, and you mentioned this earlier, you guys have done a number of deals. The most notable, well, I don't know if you want to say one is most notable, but the biggest one was $4.2 billion, the $4.2 billion acquisition of French's and Frank's, and I think there was a barbecue sauce that was part of that as well, if I remember.
Yeah, Cattleman's, yep, that's in the food service.
And then obviously last year you guys bought Baltimore and the flavor maker FONA. What goes into the process of closing those big deals? Because I'm sure that's a huge, big task as the CFO.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say the first and most important thing is to find a great asset. The thing about our growth profile, like I said before, we target longer term 4 to 6% sales growth. You want to find a asset who's not going to dilute that growth, because we think that differentiates us from our peers. So brands like French's and Frank's, which over 20 years were growing 4% plus, we knew that was a great asset. That once we were able to bring a bit more of our food expertise, as you remember, it was owned by Reckitt Benckiser, and it was the only food asset in their portfolio. So bringing those consumer insights, bringing new products to the platform, we knew we could continue driving the growth there. Same with Cholula and FONA. Cholula was owned by a private equity firm for a couple of years, who actually did a really nice job in setting ourselves up, and we've seen that over the last 9 months how well it's done. And actually on our earnings call last week, we talked about Cholula now is the #2 hot sauce brand in the US. So Frank's is #1 and Cholula is #2, and I won't name the #3. But so first is getting an asset you really believe in and can grow. I'd say the second big thing is it's a lot of work. So due diligence, we spend a lot of time from the commercial side on due diligence, the financial side, the legal side. Lawrence, I mentioned before, came from Zatarain's when we bought Zatarain's back in the early 2000s. And he still says today when he's talking to investors that when he was the president of Zatarain's, that McCormick did 3 times as much due diligence as any other company that was looking at Zatarain's. Wow. And, I think a lot of companies will do the due diligence to check the box, but we really do it from a holistic point of view. And because we realize these things are so important, most acquisitions, frankly, fail across most business. We have a very good success rate, I think, in part due to the fact that we really do a lot of due diligence and the financial discipline. We walk away from a lot of deals too. You don't hear about those that you walk away from. You just hear about the ones that are successful. But there gets to a point where we follow the philosophy of EVA, economic value added. And if it doesn't get to the return in the right amount of time, it's probably better in someone else's portfolio.
Yeah, I mean, when you guys did the French's and Frank's deal, I remember there was a little bit of skepticism about the amount of debt you guys were taking on related to that deal. How are you able to balance the debt management and also you got it obviously down to a point where you guys could start doing deals again like Cholula and Fona? So how are you able to pull that off?
Remember back then we took our debt to EBITDA up as far as we comfortably could based on our risk profile. We also did issue some equity back then. We issued some shares to make sure we didn't go above that debt to EBITDA target. But I'd say really the focus was really the focus on cash, because we realized when you're borrowing that much money, you need to pay it down, and we had obviously covenants we had to adhere to, and we wanted to get back to high quality investment grade paper. So focus across the company in driving cash, working capital improvements, working with procurement. How can we extend terms, things like that? How can we turn inventories faster? The other thing though is Frank's and French's. We knew this when we bought it was throwing off a lot of cash. So we bought an asset that was very cash accretive to us. So that also helped us, again, accelerate that debt pay down and allowed us to get back into the market for both Cholula and Fona earlier this year.
How's the deal market looking right now?
There's lots of targets out there. We have a list of, Lawrence says 1,000. I'm not sure if it's quite that high, but there's a certain percentage that will become ripe. There'll be people who are there might be a family business like Fona, where he was ready to retire and he wanted to sell it to someone who was going to take care of his firstborn. Cholula was an acquisition, it was a PE firm that timed out on how long they wanted to hold it and they wanted to monetize it. So we're always looking. Our corporate development teams are always talking to potential partners, but right now we're focused on paying down that debt and really absorbing both Cholula and Fona this year.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And earlier when you were talking about CCI, you mentioned supply chain, and when you want to think about supply chain right now, you guys have obviously seen a big impact in that because of the pandemic. Pandemic's obviously had a lot of effects on you guys. You've seen the at-home cooking trend, but at the same time, I think you were talking about this on your earnings call the other day. You guys are obviously seeing a lot of cost increases. What would you say has been the biggest challenge for you guys as a result of the pandemic, and how are you managing through that?
Yeah, I think like you alluded to, I mean, the challenge for the supply chain has been pretty amazing. I mean, to have this amount of growth in this short amount of time, any supply chain is going to be challenged. We buy 14,000 different items across 85 countries. So you think about when the pandemic initially was sweeping around the world, so you had that to deal with. And then there was a point in time where food service or flavor solutions sales were dropping dramatically because the people had to stay at home. Consumer sales were driving up dramatically because people were staying at home. It's basically now we have the best of both worlds a bit, where the consumer sales are staying elevated in part due to those long-term trends we've identified, such as people cooking more at home because they like the taste. It's more convenient for them. Younger people tend to cook more at home than we did when we were younger, believe it or not. The experimenting on flavors. So the things that were happening pre-pandemic have really stuck with the pandemic. And now everyone has an air fryer. Everyone has a different gadget in their kitchen. So they've learned how to cook at home over the last year and a half, which we think is a good long-term trend, which will continue. We also see food service and flavor solutions recovering, as I mentioned before. This obviously has put a big challenge in supply chain, and with some of the global logistics issues out there, the hiring issues in labor across the U.S. and other countries, it has been a challenge for us from a cost perspective. So we've had to rely on co-packers a bit more than we'd like to, for example. We've offered incentives to get more people in here, incentive bonuses and things like that, which appear to be working now. But it's when demand is up so high, it's kind of a high class problem to have, but it is a challenge for supply chain. So they've really been through a lot the last year and a half.
Over the last year, and what lessons would you take away?
I think it might sound trite, but our strategies and our business model were spot on before the pandemic. Mm-hmm. We thought that we have a very resilient business model. Our strategies around driving further consumer growth, flavors, those trends I talked about before did accelerate 3 to 5 years. Direct to consumer e-commerce, those have all accelerated 3 to 5 years. So I think our we just went through the long-term planning process. Our strategies, frankly, haven't changed. They always get tweaked to some degree. It all comes down to execution, but we feel really good that the resilience of our business model was there, and realizing you have to make sure you're on top of things. Like, where's capital need to go next? How do you deploy that to meet the next volume surge? So I'd say those are things we've learned that, and frankly, our people have been through a heck of a lot the last year and a half. We've learned how to work virtually at home. Lawrence jokes that if 2 years ago, if someone would have told you that we could have worked at home, we would have hired a consultant for a couple $1 million bucks. They would have told us we couldn't do it. Heck, we did it, and frankly, we did a darn good job of it. And now we're in the middle of we have a new policy of you can work up to 50% at home now, and that we're, I think, living that very well. And I think we've all adopted to the new norm.
And you mentioned earlier relationship with Lawrence, and obviously we just honored him as one of our Power 10 recently as well. So he's clearly high-powered, energetic CEO who's trying to constantly move the company forward. But you mentioned you guys have a really good relationship. I think something that pretty much every CFO watching this will be interested in hearing about is, how do you, in your seat as the CFO, make sure you have a good relationship with the CEO, and how do you guys work together?
I think it's like any good marriage. Communication. His office is right beside mine. Even when we're traveling, we're talking to each other almost every day. We don't think alike, I would say. I think we think similar paths. I think sometimes you worry if you think too much alike, you could have groupthink. We'll challenge each other. I remember some really good conversations during the Franks and French's acquisition time period as far as debt and things like that. I will say what I found with Lawrence, he's very strategic, but has a very good understanding of finance. Whereas I have a really good understanding of finance, I think, but I also think about it. I think about things not just about numbers, but strategies. I've always thought with my finance function, I try to think about it as a general manager or a commercial person, just a pure numbers person. So I think about with me and him, it's a little bit like two puzzle pieces going together.
What happens when you guys disagree?
He wins. He's actually, I will say, Lawrence is very passionate. He's very energetic, as you said before. He's very logical, though. I mentioned he knows a lot about finance. He actually thinks a lot like a finance person too, which helps as you're presenting options to him. So I found him for the right option. He'll generally be open to that.
And I think we're getting close to the end of the time, so I'd just love to maybe close out with what would be your biggest piece of advice to a young financial professional who is either maybe just entering the accounting world, or maybe they someone who's just starting out at their company and wants to eventually become the CFO one day. What would be your advice to that person?
No, it's something we talk at McCormick a lot with our younger team members. If you look at my career or other who are senior finance leaders at McCormick, generally they have a broad-based career. They might have some public accounting, as I mentioned before. Within McCormick, there's supply chain finance, which I came into as a plant controller. There's commercial finance, there's FP&A, there's controllership. So I'd encourage people to get a good breadth of different kind of sub-functions within finance to broaden their career. They can be a better business partner to their commercial partners or to their supply chain finance or supply chain partners. And it might help them figure out what they want to do. Like, do they like supply chain finance? Do they want to specialize in that? That's okay. We need really good supply chain finance people, but we also need more generalists as you come up into the CFO track to broaden yourself out and think that way too. So I just encourage people to experiment. I think too, we've tried to make sure people know, just don't go into a job for 6 months or a year and check the box. You have to live through a couple of business cycles working with your business partner. And I think, I tell people when I was a plant controller or even after that, I wasn't thinking about being the CFO. I had good people mentoring me, and I think it's, I think for younger people, be patient, take the next job opportunity, but take a risk. If you get a chance to go overseas like I did and spend some time in London, like we talked before, it's a great opportunity and you won't regret it. So take some risk in your career.
That's incredible advice. Well, thank you so much for your time, Mike. Congratulations to you on all that you've accomplished, to McCormick on what you guys have accomplished as a company, and just good luck as you guys continue to move forward.
Great. It's nice talking to you today, Holden. Have a good day.
You too.
We've written about countless CFOs over the years who are successfully navigating their company's finances. Today, we are spotlighting 10 such leaders. Our 2021 honorees are Duke Allen has a saying next to his photo on SC&H's website that says, "Excellence is not an act, but a habit." And he means it. He says he's constantly striving for excellence. Allen last year tacked director onto the title of CFO. He now has a vote in the most critical decisions the executive committee makes. Please congratulate Duke Allen of SC&H Group.
Wow, what a welcome and pleasant surprise this award was. I graciously accept this, and I'm humbled by the award, especially being in the CPA consulting space. I keep good company. I'd like to thank all of my colleagues here at SC&H Group. I'd especially like to thank my family for their love and support. Thank you very, very much.
Mark Bailey sees the growth of his employer, Johns Hopkins, as having a big impact on his role. He says Johns Hopkins is no longer just a large employer or a place to get medical care or an education. It is a major innovation engine in this country, and it represents the center of a growing ecosystem in and around Baltimore. Bailey is helping lead that effort. Please congratulate Mark Bailey, Director of Finance and Administration, Johns Hopkins Technology Ventures.
Hi, I'm Mark Bailey, CFO of Johns Hopkins Technology Ventures. We bring together university researchers and outside capital and business expertise to bring academic discoveries to the marketplace. I am honored to receive this award and appreciate the opportunity to celebrate virtually. Thank you to the Baltimore Business Journal for continuing its award programs and providing this platform for business leaders and organizations to tell their stories. I started at Johns Hopkins University in 2011 in a financial and research training program to now become the CFO of Johns Hopkins Technology Ventures. This journey wouldn't have been possible without mentorship, support, and opportunities. For instance, I've had great mentors and colleagues like Jim Miller, Christy Weiskill, and Steve Kasoris, and many others who believed in me and have taken personal interest in my career. They helped me to stay focused on the big picture, and I learned how to navigate and advance within a large organization. I've also learned that giving back and helping others along their professional journey is critical to ensure we are building future leaders. I'll close with some reflections on the past year at Johns Hopkins Technology Ventures. The year was successful, but difficult. Like many organizations, the university went through a financial reforecasting exercise in 2020 as a result of COVID-19. Simply put, we had to tighten our budget. However, the work didn't slow down and we saw excellent results. Our revenues in 2021 increased by over 50% compared to 2020. We also saw a record year for startups. $1.2 million in equity was invested in our startup portfolio in a single year, our best ever. I also want to celebrate an important indicator for the city of Baltimore. Johns Hopkins startup companies are increasingly staying local instead of fleeing to Silicon Valley and Boston as they used to do automatically. If you look at the share of venture capital that stays here, it has risen from 15% to 40% since we've become focused on local ecosystem building, which has led to the creation of many jobs in the city. We at JHTV pride ourselves on our contribution to the city. It really is a wonderful place to do business and be a CFO. Finally, none of this would be possible without the hardworking, talented team at Johns Hopkins Technology Ventures, as well as the inventors, researchers, and all of our colleagues around Johns Hopkins University. Thank you for your support and partnership. Again, thank you to the Baltimore Business Journal for this award.
Mercedes Bucelato isn't a buried in the books kind of finance exec. How could she be when she works at the Center Club, the nexus of networking in Baltimore business? She says she tries to be visible to the club's 1,700 members, a number she's working hard to grow. Please congratulate Mercedes Bucelato, Director of Finance and Administration for the Center Club.
It is an added honor to accept this award from Rhonda Pringle, publisher of the BBJ and Center Club board member. I'm especially grateful to Kevin Bonner, our general manager, and PJ Mitchell, the Center Club board president, for their nomination for this year's award. Their support, along with that of my Center Club colleagues and the Board of Governors, is an honor in itself. Their leadership and unwavering dedication to excellence has been critical to my role as the financial leader of the club. I thank them for the opportunity to proudly represent the Center Club, our team, the Board of Governors, and especially the membership. I did not accomplish this on my own. I have the great pleasure of working with 39 of the best teammates in town and with the 38 members of the club's Board of Governors, who are among Baltimore's most respected business and community leaders. Working along them is the most rewarding part of my job, and I would like to sincerely thank each of them for their support, motivation, and confidence in me as we drive even greater success for the Center Club. In a sense, this award recognizes the perseverance, innovation, and compassion of the Center Club and its reaction to the drastic and unexpected challenges of the COVID pandemic. 2020 and the pandemic proved beyond a doubt that the Center Club is more than just a place. It's all about the people, all about the relationships. Previous strategic investments, the resulting success in 2019, and the club's adaptability and innovation in 2020 positioned us well to withstand the unexpected setbacks of the pandemic. The club emerged in a strong financial position for 2021, allowing us to make additional investments this year to deliver even more value to our members. The Center Club is very proud to be celebrating its 60th anniversary in 2022 and proud that our founding values of diversity and inclusion continue to be the hallmarks of our culture. And I'm grateful to be part of the club's journey of success and inspired to help lead this historical institution to its next milestone. Thank you again to the BBJ, to Kevin, PJ, our team, and our leaders for this distinct honor.
Michael Burns said his faith took him from the investment world into the nonprofit realm, in this case, helping people facing homelessness and addiction at the Helping Up mission. It was there he found a way to put his faith into more tangible action. Please congratulate Michael Burns, CFO of the Helping Up mission.
Hi, everybody. My name is Michael Burns, and I am the CFO for Helping Up Mission in East Baltimore. Thanks so much for this honor. I'm very happy to accept. However, honors of this type are really only possible when you're part of a great organization, have a great team, and share a great mission. I'm truly grateful and blessed to be part of the important work of Helping Up Mission. For those of you who may not know, Helping Up Mission is a 540-bed homeless shelter and residential addiction recovery center. The mission has been around since 1885, providing help and hope to people experiencing homelessness, poverty, and addiction by meeting their physical, psychological, social, and spiritual needs. We offer substantial year-long residential recovery programs, combining the very best spiritual pastoral care with professional clinical mental health care, set in a therapeutic residential community where people help each other. Historically, our services have been primarily for men. However, it has been on our hearts for many years to offer the same substantive programs for women. I'm happy to say that in the past year, we've been busy constructing and are nearing completion of a 250-bed state-of-the-art facility for women and their children. We are very excited to begin this new chapter in our history. As everyone knows, the last 1.5 years of the pandemic have been very difficult. As an essential service provider, we've been operating in person the entire crisis. With a staff of 65 and a residential community of over 500 people, we've had to negotiate the pandemic one day at a time, flexing as we went, doing the next right thing, all while handling a major construction project and a significant expansion of our programs. With God's grace, heroic internal efforts, remarkable donor support, and outstanding partnerships, we not only survived, but thrived. That is nothing short of miraculous, and we are very grateful. We have grown significantly. Our net assets have grown by 400% and our revenues by 30% over the past 4 years. In addition, we are now doubling the size of our campus and are increasing our residential programs by 50%. I truly look forward to seeing what comes next. The BBJ also asked me to provide a couple of things I've learned over the years. First, communication is key. You need to be on the same page with your board, CEO, and with your staff. Clear communication takes hard work, but wins the day. Second, problems don't go away. You need to act on them as soon as you have sufficient information. Again, difficult, but to let them fester is far, far worse. And third, character matters. Being part of an organization and team of good character is essential. When things get tough, good character shines. Finally, I'd like to congratulate all of my fellow honorees and wish them the best. Thanks so much, and God bless.
We're here to congratulate our beloved CFO, Michael Burns, for a well-deserved recognition. Mike is an incredibly hard worker, a true professional with a really big heart. Congratulations, Michael Burns.
Michael D. has been busy. Through a deal announced in August, Pasadena-based North Arundel Savings Bank will merge with and into his employer, BayVanguard Bank. This follows acquisitions of Delmarva Bank shares and MB Bancorp last year, and a merger with Copernic Bank in 2019. Please congratulate the man behind these deals, Michael D., CFO and EVP of BayVanguard Bank.
Hello, everyone. I am Michael D., the Chief Financial Officer of BayVanguard Bank. I would like to thank the BBJ for honoring me with one of the Best of Finance CFO Awards. I'm sure I qualified for this award due to all the merger activity and growth of the bank over the last few years. Therefore, a little recap is in order. In December of 2018, the bank was much smaller than we are today. In January 2019, we converted all of our systems to a newer, more user-friendly and powerful suite of systems. This was the accumulation of 18 months of planning, and it went very smoothly. In February of 2019, BayVanguard Bank and Copernic Bank merged. This created a bank twice as large as we had been previously. Copernic systems were then converted to ours in the summer of 2019. In February of 2020, we purchased MB Bancorp, the parent of Madison Bank of Maryland, which increased our size another 30% and gave us a robust presence in Harford County. Madison systems were then converted in May of 2020. Then in October of the same year, we purchased Delmarva Bank shares, the parent of 1880 Bank in Cambridge, Maryland, that once again doubled our size and brought us into Talbot and Dorchester counties on the Eastern Shore. Their conversion occurred in March of 2021. We now have a pending transaction with North Arundel Savings Bank in Pasadena. All of this activity would not have been possible without all the hard work and dedication of my colleagues at the bank across all departments: accounting, loan administration, deposit operations, IT, and HR. An incredible amount of analysis and planning goes into every one of these mergers, and I am accepting this award on their behalf as well. Finally, I would like to thank my wife Janet for putting up with me and the sometimes long hours that went into the bank's growth. In closing, BayVanguard is a full-service community bank who is able to provide a wide variety of banking services to anyone in Maryland. If your bank has let you down, give us a call.
Sidney Evans Jr. knew from the moment he opened his first bank account with his paperboy money that he wanted to work in the financial realm. His latest role started about 7 years ago at Morgan State University, which last year closed on a $70 million loan deal to support campus construction projects and debt refinancing. Please help me congratulate Sidney Evans Jr., CFO of Morgan State University.
I am Sidney H. Evans Jr., Executive Vice President for Finance and Administration at Morgan State University. I want to thank the Baltimore Business Journal for selecting me as one of the best in finance CFO recipients. I am humble and very proud to accept this award on behalf of the Morgan family. For a CFO, it is sometimes a lonely job. When the organization is doing well, everyone gets the credit. When the organization struggles and is failing, the CFO gets the blame. Receiving this award makes being a CFO so worthwhile. This has been a challenging year for all of us, specifically at Morgan State University, as we manage our way through the pandemic. I am incredibly fortunate to have an exceptional staff to help through this process. The team worked endlessly to assure that Morgan paid its employees, its vendors, and continued to provide high-quality educational programs and services to our students. Education is one of the most important foundations in our society and the hallmark for success. It is the attainment of education that enhances society and improves the quality of life for all. I believe education impacts the overall results for the city of Baltimore, the state of Maryland, the country, and globally. Morgan is truly growing the future and leading the world. Before I conclude, I must take this opportunity to thank those who helped me earn this award. First, I want to offer my sincere thanks to the President of Morgan, Dr. David K. Wilson, for his inspiring leadership, mentorship, and friendship. Second, I want to thank the Morgan State University Board of Regents for their support and what I do at Morgan. Without the help of your governing board, your effectiveness as a CFO is limited, will be limited. To Dr. Shirley Malcolm, Chairwoman of the Finance and Facilities Committee, who has been invaluable in her support of the financial recommendations to the Board of Regents. Thank you, Dr. Malcolm. Special thanks to my finance and administration team. I have the best team in higher education, and none of this would have been possible without them. It is the hands of the team that moves the organization forward. Lastly, and most importantly, to my beautiful wife for 36 years, and to my two bright, successful, and beautiful daughters. Without them, this award would not have happened. They motivate me and encourage me to strive for excellence to make Morgan better. They have all been extremely patient with me because they have to share me with the Morgan family. I love them for that. Since we're in the fall season and the holidays are approaching, I want to leave you with these words. Advice from a pumpkin. Be well-rounded. Enjoy the sunshine. Keep growing. Have thick skin. Be outstanding in your field. Hold on to your vine until it's time. Think big. Always patch things up and shine from within. Thank you again, Baltimore Business Journal, for this incredible honor.
Jean Gould looks at herself as a financial storyteller, and she has a very good story to tell. She's been the CFO for Calvert Hall College since 2014. The Catholic school is thriving, bringing in $450,000 from more than 1,500 donors during its 6th annual All Hall Day this year. Please congratulate Jean Gould of Calvert Hall.
I just want to take this time to thank you, Joe Baker, Brother John, and the Board of Trustees for your support and nomination. Thank you, Baltimore Business Journal, for this honor. Being a CFO, it's not about Excel worksheets and just numbers. It's not black and white. Always look at everything you do through the mission and core values of your company. By doing this will shape everything you do and identify the paths of how the organization or the company can grow and where to focus energy. It's remaining open to our Board of Trustees, administration, family, faculty, and staff. Ultimately, it's all about providing support to our teachers and education they provide, both in budgeting and reporting. As we all know, last year was a pandemic year. I soon learned that we at Calvert Hall are quite resilient. Despite the pandemic, we were able to stay open in hybrid mode for the entire year and support our families through this difficult time. We were in the middle of a capital campaign and came out even stronger than the previous year. This past year, our enrollment remained intact and financial aid returned to pre-pandemic rates. Thank you once again for all the support and this incredible award.
Jean, congratulations on this tremendous honor. You deserve it and you have earned it. And thank you for keeping us at Calvert Hall focused on our mission. And let's hear now what some of our families have to say.
Lori Rice sets the bar high. She says the development goal for St. John Properties is 40 million square feet. That's double what the Baltimore company has right now. Rice is determined to help the growing company get there. Please congratulate Honoree Lori Rice of St. John Properties.
Hi, this is Lori Rice. I am the CFO and Executive Vice President of St. John Properties. I would like to thank the Baltimore Business Journal for this award. It is truly an honor. I would also like to thank the entire team at St. John Properties. You guys are great. Couldn't have done it without you. I would also love to thank my family. Your support is everything. I love you guys. And finally, congratulations to all of the recipients. You've earned it. Great job.
Glenn Schultz became the top finance exec for one of the city's largest infrastructure contractors after a varied career elsewhere. But he says he quickly realized that he wanted to spend the rest of his career there and continue the company's longtime success. Please congratulate Honoree Glenn Schultz, Vice President of Finance for P. Flanagan & Sons.
I'm Glenn Schultz, the Vice President of Finance for P. Flanagan & Sons. I'm extremely humbled and honored to have been nominated for the Baltimore Business Journal Best in Finance CFO Awards, and even more so, to have been selected as one of the award winners. To the editor and selection committee at the BBJ, thank you. And to the other honorees, congratulations. I'd like to thank Ronnie Kurlander and the team at Hartman Executive Advisors for the nomination. I appreciate the partnership and collaboration of our teams over the past 7 years. I'd also like to thank Evan Shirey, Flanagan's Vice President of Operations, for the nomination. Evan, I've enjoyed working with you over the years as you've worked your way up through the ranks here at Flanagan, and I look forward to future successes with you on the company leadership. I'd also like to recognize my finance and IT teams. They're extremely hardworking, knowledgeable, dependable, and experienced. I still love the details and the debits and the credits, but their expertise allows me to focus on strategic initiatives with Pierce Flanagan and the rest of the executive leadership. Over my career, I've learned many lessons. I've learned that it's okay to say I don't know, as long as you follow up with, I'll get you the answer. I've also learned to own and admit when I've made mistakes or was wrong. And I've learned that I can't do it all by myself, I've got to collaborate and rely on others, and that sometimes there's more than one way to achieve the desired result. Prior to the outbreak of COVID-19, I was not a fan of teleworking. But the pandemic has taught me that people can and do and will work effectively and productively remotely. In closing, I'd like to thank Pierce Flanagan for his trust and confidence in me. His father hired me in 2003 as the controller, reporting to the executive vice president, who was also the CFO. When Pierce became president in 2008, he promoted me to vice president of finance, even though the executive vice president was still in his role. That was one of the most proudest moments of my career. Pierce, thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward to many more years of being on your executive leadership team. Thank you, and have a great day.
And finally, Kathy Snellinger sees the fruit of her hard work popping up all around her. Her architecture firm, Mahan Reichel's work, includes projects like the Four Seasons, the new Whole Foods in Harbor East, and soon the redeveloped Rash Field. She says many of the projects impact her own life. Please congratulate Kathy Snellinger of Mahan Reichel.
Hi, my name is Kathy Snellinger, and I'm the CFO for Mahan Reichel Associates. I would like to begin by thanking Mahan Reichel for nominating me for this award. I also would like to thank the Baltimore Business Journal for selecting me for their 2021 Best in Finance CFO Award. I am honored to be listed along with 9 other CFOs for some very impressive companies. In 2012, I became the CFO for Mahan Reichel Associates. Prior to that, I was the accounting manager for many years and handled all part of the finances. When I became the CFO, I knew that I would need to move the position to a new level as CFO and ensure the financial future for Mahan Reichel Associates. Over my term as CFO, we've had exponential growth in revenues. We've also increased the staff. One of the things I have learned is relationships matter, whether it's the relationship with our client, our bank, our insurance agent, a vendor. I have learned from their advice and their knowledge, and this has served me well. Most firms will probably want to know how a small business has survived COVID-19 and the aftermath. I can tell you that Mahan Reichel has weathered the storm. In the fall of 2019, we invested in technology and bought laptops for our production staff. We were able to pivot quickly to a remote working environment. We applied for a PPP loan and were given one, and this was a financial lifeline for our firm. We continued to work remotely, tried to stay connected to our staff through various platforms of communication. We kept our staff healthy. We had monthly Zoom happy hours where we kicked off our Fridays and our weekend by playing different games and learning new projects. The point was we stayed connected. Our staff had different family challenges that we worked through. We learned to be flexible. All those things mattered, and I think we've learned some lessons that we can take with us in the future. I want to again thank the Baltimore Business Journal for this nomination and award. And I also want to thank the principals and our staff who make me want to get up every day and be the best CFO I can be. Thank you.
Congratulations to all of our honorees. Thank you, Joanna. We are so proud to honor such a wonderful group of financial executives. You can read more about each of our honorees in tomorrow's special section of the Baltimore Business Journal. From all of us at the Baltimore Business Journal, be safe, stay healthy, and we hope to see you in person soon. Have a great rest of your day.